Purva, the floor is yours.
Great. So welcome everyone today. I was hoping that Sitaram also could join us, but he's not there. So yeah, without further me talking about anything, we'll start with the sessions. First, we have Sujata Khandekar. I'll quickly introduce Sujata. So she's the founder director of CORO India, a Mumbai-based NGO that specialized in community development with a focus on gender in development. Sujata is actively involved in women's movement over 3 decades and is part of core committees of some leading women's organization in Maharashtra. Sujata has done MA in Education, Gender and International Development from University of London. She has recently submitted her PhD thesis on meanings of empowerment. This academic research is facilitated by Sujata with 7 grassroots researchers as co-researchers by developing the research methodology, feminist cooperative inquiry, feminist research influenced by the cooperative inquiry approach. The empowerment of grassroots women in urban and rural context has been core to Sujata's work. Facilitating grassroots leadership for leading social change is central to her vision and CORO's intervention. She was also a fellow of MacArthur Foundation Leadership Development Fund. She is part of various government and non-government committees, networks aimed at women's empowerment and community development. I really want to read this research and have a lot of questions already with respect to ethics and how did you navigate those ethics and all of that. But
no, I have been asked. I have been constantly asked about those questions. You're most welcome, Purva.
I have been fighting with. Okay, that we can talk later. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So should I start?
Yeah. Please.
Yeah. It's great to be here, and hope you all are safe. People in your countries are safe, because unfortunately there is something binding all of us together, which is scare and uncertainty. I mean, globally currently with the pandemic. So I hope all your near ones, dear ones are safe, and you're safe and keeping safe. Right. Um, Thanks for this opportunity, and it's so nice that very cohesive small group, and we can just discuss and learn from each other. And this is an opportunity for me to share CORO's work. So primarily, we'll be focusing on challenges in the infrastructure related work today. Just to put in the context, CORO's work around infrastructure, I decided that I'll just speak briefly about CORO and then our Right to P movement, and then what Right to P movement has done and the challenges that and the sites of collaborations that we see in this. So CORO CORO was formed in 1989 with the sole aim of propagation of adult literacy in low-income communities of Mumbai. And it was formed by privileged people, people like me who came from privileged background, well-educated, well-employed, mostly upper caste, definitely upper class kind of thing. But all of us were working in new social movements, like I worked for Women's Movement Organization. Somebody was from trade union, somebody from People Science Movement, somebody from Readers Movement. All of us came together, and we were intellectually influenced by Paulo Freire, idea of conscientization, and saw literacy as a wherewithal to mobilize people around their own issues. That's how we started. And in the last 32 years, actually, CORO has undergone evolution in many aspects. I wouldn't talk about everything, but the strongest evolution, the aspect of evolution, I would say, is the organization that was established, that was formed by people from privileged background, is totally a community-led organization now. I mean, a literacy volunteer in 1989 is our program director today. And actually, it also says like people have stayed with the organization for 32 years, and have enriched themselves and organizations. So that is the strongest point. And also the transformation. Actually, this transformation is important even while I'm speaking about right to pay, because what happens in CORO is all the interventions in spirit, in language, in content, in delivery, they are all grounded into experiential learning. Experiences of marginalization of people from community. Actually, that makes CORO strong organization, and I would say the grounded organization. And that's why all our experiences, even in Right to Be that I'm going to speak about in a minute, everything is much focused on grassroots and community based and more on women. It's more women centered kind of. And women empowerment and gender equality has been focus of CORO since its inception. So I'll just briefly stop here about CORO and come to more detailed discussions when we speak about it. Um, uh, what we actually, as I said, there were evolutions in many aspects, but after say 10, 12 years, we realize that what is our unique demonstrative proposition? We don't call it unique selling proposition. The unique demonstrative proposition was about facilitating grassroots leadership, where people really take reins in their own hands. They understand their own potential to change things. They understand their context, and they understand their potential to change their context and motivated to do that. So that became CORO's actually core strength, and we explored that core strength in a very structured program called Grassroots Leadership Development Program, which is underway for last 12 years, where the potential grassroots leaders, and we believe that every person has the potential to create change. So everybody is potential change maker and change leader. So this is actually pitching, the program is pitching at the people who are really the last rung in the, even in the NGOs or CBOs, and directly connected with community and trying to change their communities or trying to address issues in their communities. So JLDP, this is Grassroots Leadership Development Program. When we were in the third year of program, this is really very high impact program, and we could talk about it sometime later. But then in the third year, because continuing and enhancing the acquired leadership was a challenge, always, all intervention programs have this challenges of sustainability. So that challenge was with us also. And we thought that actually bringing, by then we had very critical mass in all regions of Maharashtra, the state we were working in. That is our state. Maharashtra is our state where we are based. So we had critical mass, like in each region we had 30, 35 fellows. And each fellow was coming from an organization, NGO, small NGO, CBO. So actually we facilitated the process wherein people in particular jurisdiction came together to do higher level advocacy of an issue that is pertinent to that jurisdiction. And that's how their abilities not only sustained, but they got enhanced because the advocacy was of higher level. There was networking with other organizations, there was collaboration with other organizations. So obviously the leadership experienced a level shift for people who were in the process. And Right to P is the campaign that was started and facilitated by the leaders who were from Mumbai region. Actually, the fellows in Mumbai from our program and their organization, they came together to advocate for free, clean, safe public urinals for women. Because there were no women urinals abundantly. Actually, zero urinals were available for women when we researched that, we did survey. And there were plenty of urinals were available for men. So this campaign started with that. And more than infrastructure, I must say, like more than infrastructure, the core point for us was gender, the gender sensitivity in the issue, because it is just not about a metabolic activity, urine, peeing is kind of, but it is about how insensitive the whole society and the policymakers are towards gender. Kind of. And because people don't think that women need toilets in public spaces. Otherwise, they would have been percolated in the actions of policymakers. They would have been percolated in the infrastructure facilities that we have in. So that's how the campaign started. And actually, the campaign has gone places in last 7.5 years kind of thing, whatever period, 8 years, I think. And have achieved, has many milestones the campaign has achieved. So firstly, actually about the campaign, I would just say it started as consortium of 32 organizations. Actually, 10 organizations were part of our leadership program, but then organizations that are working on gender or organizations that are working on infrastructural facilities in the city, they all joined and it became a consortium of 32 organizations. Not all organizations were active. Ultimately, it was 5 or 6 organizations who were very active in the process. And then it dropped down to CORO being kind of a driver of the whole. So this campaign was, I would say, incubated and nurtured by CORO and then driven by CORO. And that actually included many organizations. So we used, in this campaign, we used advocacy definitely with government functionaries. And media advocacy was the strongest point, and I'll come to that later. Actually, media really picked up this. Even the name Right to Be is given by New Yorker. You know, there was a big article on the front page on this campaign. And we had a big name, long name, like a railway cart, you know, a railway cargo. We had big name, but New Yorker called it Right to Pee, and then it became Right to Pee campaign, actually. So media has done a lot of advocacy for us in that sense. And the whole we collected evidence. So it was also evidence-based research that the strategy we had. It was advocacy, it was training, the collaborations, networks, confrontation and collaborations with government machineries, you know, kind of. So all these strategies were part of this advocacy. Actually, when we started, it started on really a note of deepening note, I would say, deepening or a lot of skepticism from the policymaker side, from the administration side of the government. Because actually, in the first meeting, the common voice that we heard was how shameless these women are. They are asking commissioner for right to pee. What is this? You know, kind of. So it started from there, and then, but over a period of time, actually, we are able to do very good collaboration with government in terms of designs of gender sensitive design of toilets, in terms of doing surveys in the city, in terms of actually setting up a machinery within government which would help us in vigilance of monitoring, not vigilance, in monitoring of this whole program of sanitation facilities. So one thing is from public, women's urinal into public domain, you know, the campaign gradually also shifted to communities, the community toilets and sanitation in the community. I think it is also because CORO is so grounded into community, and I think it was organically it also shifted into the communities. And already we had started seeing Right to Pee, from Right to Pee, we had already started seeing Right to City, where voices that are marginalized, how we can bring in those voices at the forefront, and how CORO can become a link, a bridge between the macro and micro kind of thing, the micro realities and the micro policy makers, etc. So how we can become a bridge. And then we actually, last 2-3 years, with the collaborating with UNICEF and other organizations, which is an architecture organization for the urban project, actually we did implementation and planning work in 2 of municipal wards in Mumbai. And we actually Google mapped those toilets and we showed the authority how the dense populated areas are devoid of toilets, and how the plans that you see, beautiful plans like there is a sewerage line, this and that doesn't exist actually on the ground. And so we superimposed their plans on the Google Maps, and actually the discussion started. we try to bring the administrative authorities at the local places into whole discussion, into whole meetings, etc. And our whole focus was forming vigilance committees of citizens around every toilet block, where they would say, they would monitor their own toilet blocks. They would say what facilities they need, what support they would need from municipal corporation, etc. And actually now we have in these two wards, we have almost 48 vigilance committees which are very active. We did train vigilance committee members uh, basically around the provisions that the municipal corporation have around sanitation, etc., and how they can access it. Brought municipal commissioner representatives, municipal corporations representatives in the meeting. So the dialogue between people and the administrative authorities was established. And actually, there were so this has been really, in a way, it has seen a lot of success, I would say, if not 100%. But actually, we are on a way between forging this communication and bridge between these two, as I said, micro and macro level. So I'll come to details in this when we are discussing. But when it comes to challenges, I mean, what are the challenges in this whole process? So I would say first challenge, and resources, I don't think was a challenge in BM municipal corporation, and is not a challenge in municipal corporation. Actually, the challenge was insensitivity of the policymakers. You know, like you don't think that gender has any meaning in your policy planning, kind of. Yeah. So you always neglect that. And it's not only gender, but actually the city that is run by marginalized people. All services in the city are provided by marginalized people, whether it is cleaning, whether it is sanitation, etc. But their well-being is neglected in the policy. People are not sensitive to marginalized voices, and women's voices are always obscured. I mean, even within marginalized people, women's voices obscure. So I would say the first challenge is the insensitivity of planners. And actually the way, so for example, if you take design, it is like one size fits all. You just design one thing, and irrespective of the context and people's need, you try and implement that model that you have designed sometime, kind of. And that there is so much emphasis on making things identical, just for because I think people think that they are easy for monitoring, etc., criteria, etc. But actually, if people are not taken into consideration while planning and what they need actually, then those facilities, the infrastructure facilities, even if provided to a large extent, they're of no use to people. I mean, I can just give you an example. There is a toilet in our community for women, which has access from a saloon. So you can just imagine how could women go to toilet passing through that saloon. And so the minimum distance criteria is adhered to there, like in 1.5 kilometers, you have a sanitation facility, etc. But actually, it's of no use in that sense. And actually, when we come to women, I mean, when we think from the gender lens, one is the design of the toilets. It is absolutely not accessible to women. And then we also should not neglect the issue of safety of women, because in communities, rapes and all perpetration of violence that happens mostly when women are going to toilets in the night. So how do we actually visualize that? How do we account for these issues? And how does the policymakers address and are sensitive to these issues? Is an issue. I think. The second, I think, and actually the non-access to sanitation or water. If Sitaram would have been here today, he would have talked about water, their efforts around water. So actually non-access to these infrastructural facilities, the fundamental basic amenities, has also increased the discrepancy and marginalization between people who have resources and who don't have resources. And I would definitely say that the policies are more inclined to cater to the powerful people, to the money people. For example, access roads. I mean, you don't bother if the communities and settlements are just demolished for some highways and flyovers, etc. So that kind of approach is there, which needs to be addressed. The second challenge I would say is within the government functioning, because there are so many departments catering to one facility. So, for example, take sanitation, take water, and they don't speak to each other. There is no convergence between government departments. So everybody, and not only that, actually the criteria are different for each department. The rules are different. Their indicators are different. So, for example, in sanitation, if we take in communities, we have toilets from different agencies. Municipal corporation is there. We have another agency called MADA, which is about housing and development. So we have elected people, they have funds to build toilets, etc. And all have different criteria. And BMC, for example, for municipal corporation, Mumbai Municipal Corporation, having a NGO, CBO formed to take care of these toilet blocks is kind of precondition to start construction of the toilet, which is not the case for this thing. The other agency just build toilets. They don't give light. They don't give water to those, electricity and water connections to that, and just leave it at God's mercy kind of thing, you know. And it is neither handed over to community, etc. So actually, the different departments not talking to each other and having criteria, and there being no uniformity in execution of the plans actually causes a lot of problems. So if anything happens to the toilet, it takes ages to find out who is responsible to mend it. The third point is the vagueness of government orders. For example, in sanitation, actually the order says the minor repairs will be done by the CBOs that are established for this, and the major repairs will be done by municipal corporation, without specifying what is minor and what is major. And the interpretation is left to the people who are sitting on that chair, you know, kind of. So that creates kind of confusion, and that actually creates a lot of delays in this. And there is complete absence, I would say, of meaningful spaces of social audit. I mean, people just can't say anything. There is no channel. There are no channels for redressal or about voicing your concerns, you know, or voicing your need. So that is another area. That is another challenge. If there would have been such challenges available, people would have accessed those challenges to actually put forth their needs. And that's why I think organizations like CORO become very important and can have important role in bridging that gap of micro realities and macro level. And yeah, and I would say about the collaborations, actually the challenges itself indicate about possible collaboration. You know, so there are so many spaces of collaboration. For example, academic and NGOs can collaborate to bring up evidence for this, because nobody listens without evidence, you know. And even if the evidence is created by, say, organizations like CORO or NGOs, whatever, actually academia can give credibility to that evidence. You know? If academic is involved, academic institute is involved in collecting that data, it automatically, one is you get analyzed data, and secondly, you get credibility with that data. You know? So that collaboration is possible. I would again underscore the importance of media collaboration, because for Right to Speak to succeed the way we have succeeded, the media has played immense role. I mean, almost every alternate days, there used to be news on the front page about something that Right to Keep it. Because I think I must say this, the municipal commissioner was not giving appointment to us in spite of our rigorous follow. And then we decided that we are going to be in front of our assembly, all women getting there and paying. And that created havoc. That came on the front page, and immediately we got the appointment of the commissioner within 2 days. So these kind of, actually that was very helpful. So NGOs, and we need to sensitize. I mean, it is not about discarding anybody, not about being judgmental about anything. If the bureaucracy is not sensitive to this, it is also because they're trained like that. So we need to really sensitize. We need to find spaces to establish dialogue with them, to do dialogue with them, and take our point further. So I think all kinds of collaborations are possible. We have been now collaborating with BMC in a real way, municipal corporation, and media advocacy has been grassroots mobilization is no problem for CORO. So we have mobilized people there and trying to really bring them on a same platform with the administrative officials so that their voices get directly heard. And yeah, I think I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Sujata. Uh, there are many questions, but I was wondering, so we have two more presentations. So will everyone be there till the end of it so we can take all the questions at the end, and then right now just go ahead with the presentations?
Yeah, sure.
Is that okay? Okay, cool. Mowshumi and Rafiul, is that okay? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, perfect. So next we have Rafiul Islam. Rafiul Islam is a development practitioner and currently working with French Development Agency in Bangladesh as a project officer. He studied rural and urban regional planning, governance, public policy, environmental management, and law. He has been working on water, sanitation, and waste management, community development, urban governance, renewable energy since 2003. He also attended Norwegian Government Leadership Fellowship in India for a year in 2012 and 13 on renewable energy service promotion. From mid-2019, he is working with AFD and managing a portfolio of urban transport, RMG retrofitting, and social protection. He would like to see himself as an urban development specialist. There you go, Rafiul.
Thank you, Purva, to introduce me this platform. I'm really honored to join this platform, and since 2019, somehow I and Mowshumi, we are, somehow affiliated with the University of Manchester after joining that Healthy City conference. So we're feeling very, delighted to and memorizing the experience in 2019, and when we received the invitation, and we're really feeling very well that yes, again we can join this platform and we can share, we can talk, we can exchange. So thank you. Particularly thanks to Deslana to invite us to join this workshop. And yes, and regarding my presentation, I was actually working mostly on urban governance, sanitation, waste management. Just recently started with the transportation, social protection, and RMG retrofitting work with AFD, with the public sector organization. My role is actually managing the operation and management side of this public sector investment project, large investment project. And in that regard, I would say that I have very little experience on urban transport and public health, but I'll try to share my experience as well as country context, how actually we are going through in this area. So I would like to talk on transformative governance to improve urban transport and health, particularly Dhaka city. Dhaka city is the capital of Bangladesh and one of the largest cities, like fastest growing mega city in the world. So with a very high migration rate, and rapid population growth, urbanization, or in terms of city expansion, very high. And because, and also the opportunity in terms of administration management. We Bangladesh follow a unitary system, a unitary administration system, not the federal one. So everything is located in Dhaka. So every administrative task, most of the administrative tasks, people have to come to Dhaka. So this is how the city is featured, and all the businesses located in Dhaka. So this is how actually city, engagement or influence or urbanization, rate of urbanization is very high. Right now, we don't have any clear idea about the population. The area of the city is around 300 plus square kilometer, but population-wise, it is very densely populated. And according to an estimation of World Bank in 2019, around 15 million people are living in Dhaka, and they were World Bank estimated around 25 million people, 20 million people will be living in 2025 in Dhaka, and it will be around 26 by 2030. So the growth rate is very high. But if we look into the infrastructure, then and also the administration and utilities delivery, then and also in terms of pollution, we see every year we are in the top on the population pollution index. So Dhaka is reputed in terms of worst polluted city. Somehow we have this reputation, but we have to accept and we have to work to improve this situation. And if we look into the population scenario, then we found it's mostly because of poor waste management and air pollution mostly. So if we analyze the air pollution context, then mostly there are two factors or two contributing source. One is the industry and brick clean around the cities, and the transport. And transport, even there are experiences like we generally hear from people and from different surveys that when the children cannot walk in the cities, particularly they feel very, suffocate. They feel very suffocated while they walk for a while, maybe for a few minutes, because of the very high level of carbon monoxide and other pollutant gases. So this is one of the pollution scenario in the cities, and which is contributing from the by the transport as well as industrial sector like brick industries around the cities. And if we talk about the transport, then transport system is not very, technically efficient or not very modern system. Dhaka is reputed for its transport system for non-motorized and slow-moving vehicle, and also private transport, mostly like personal vehicle, is the dominating or dominant subsystem in the purview of public transport system. And one of the study conducted that the number of vehicle increased around 6 to 8 folds from 2003 to 2019, and the number of buses and minibuses, which are mainly used for public transport, are the same from 2003 to 2019 or 20. So if we look into the context of equity in transportation sector, then we can understand that like the lower income and middle income group, those are dependent on the public transport system. They are largely dependent on this minibuses, buses, and also three-wheelers, three-wheelers or small vehicles, motorized vehicles, and also non-motorized vehicle like rickshaw. So the equity dimension in the public transport system in the city is really, is a matter of matter to address, so that these people, the lower income section people, can have a proper access. And also, like, if we talk about the institutions, how actually the transport system is regulating in the city. So then we found that there are a number of institutions involved, and there are also a coordination agency like Dhaka Transport Coordination Authority. And under this umbrella organization, there are other organizations like there are Roads and Highways Department. They also take part to develop the road networks. Then the local government like the city corporation. Then also we have Dhaka Rajdhani Unnayan Kortripokho, Rajuk. So they are also responsible at some extent to develop road network. And also there are other organizations like those have a stake in the road network, like those are other utilities like water supply authority like Dhaka Wasa, then electricity distribution companies, gas distribution companies, because they all expanded their network through these road networks, underground networks. So they have a stake on this road network system, and we frequently experience that road cutting. Like there is a new road, but the next year or the same year we are seeing that the road is cut again to renew or to install another utility line. So they have there are other institutions have stake in the road network system, transport system. So it's a huge, like a different authority, but the coordination agency, we don't see that level of coordination and that level of traffic management is there. Still, we are following manual, it is very. We see that there are a number of initiative previously taken to have a digital traffic management system, digital signaling system, but that did not work. Now we see a section of police force, they're responsible for traffic management, and they are doing it manually. So they're signaling using their hand, or sometimes they're using some lighting signal. So this is how the system is managing here. Like if we talk about the goal of the objectives of the transport system, like the reliability, comfort, speed, and safety, these are somehow compromised. We are very famous for long traffic congestion, and also the quality of buses and other transport services is not that good or standard. And also, like safety, we see if there are incidents frequently taking places or happening over the roads, and we see number of subsequent crises related with these incidents. So this is how actually the overall transport system. And in regard to the health, earlier I said that air pollution situation, but we also see during the COVID pandemic, we see there are two sources mainly, spreading this communicable disease like COVID-19. One is the supermarket or shopping malls, large shopping malls, and second one is the public transport system. And during the COVID time, the government has issued order like the buses can carry passenger with its 50% capacity, not the full capacity. And the next day, we see that many passengers are on the road waiting to get a transport service, because the buses are not taking or carrying passenger in its full capacity. So we see there is a crisis. And then after a few days or within few days, we see that buses are carrying full capacity, and even passengers are standing on the buses. So we could not maintain the safety regulation related with COVID because of the, because of this level of efficiency or efficacy of our transport system. But the good thing is that government is now trying. Even for last several years, government is trying. Like there was a strategic transportation plan in 2005. Later in 2015, it has revised, and a number of, because we clearly see that there is a clear gap of infrastructure, like road network, like the improved modalities, like metro, like which are actually suitable for the for mega cities like Dhaka, like bus rapid transit system or the metro, and also like improving the signaling system or incorporating other road network which can actually divert the traffic, which don't require to go through the city. So these kind of measures have been identified in revised strategic transportation plan of 2015, and there are a number of initiatives are ongoing, like bus rapid transit project are in implementation right now, and also number of metro project under implementation in PPP modality. And also there are a number of expressways construction are ongoing, and number of institutions have been formed, like the bus rapid transit company, metro company, then expressway authority. So there are like now we see that there are institutions that is also in the phase of strengthening phase or creation phase, and also new infrastructure or which can actually serve the city like Dhaka or mega city, that is also in place. But we also understand that we are not very, in terms of economy, and not very strong country, and we need some time. Like Bangladesh needs some time to address this kind of issue. And these issues are not only with the Dhaka one, because we have a decentralization issue. People have to come to Dhaka, and also all the opportunities mostly located Dhaka or surrounding Dhaka. Therefore, people have to migrate here. So we also have to work on this issue as well. Like we have to work on the equity aspects, so that people can get economic opportunity in their region or nearby their places, so that they don't need to come to Dhaka. So these are also some equity aspects we need to address. And also like now we see that the bus services or minibus services, these are mostly run by private sector people. So if we introduce public sector services like BRT or metro or other services, then how to address these people in the urban transport? So, and also there are new institution or new investment on PPP. So we also have to, work on this institution and this system. We have to acquire knowledge and skill on this. If we can do this, and simultaneously we can harmonize our institutional coordination process, and we can implement this project, hopefully day by day we can have a better transportation system, and we will also can reduce the pollution level. And for particularly for reducing pollution level, I think in the policies like mass transportation system, we should address polluters pay principle, and we need to address some sort of mechanism in the on the vehicle or transport license renewal process to incorporate. We need to incorporate some sort of mechanism in the license renewal process or road permit, so that these issues are addressed and pollution level is really reduced, and we can address the lower level of pollution. So I think I have just reached my end of my talk, and but I'll again reiterate that I'm very, not very. I have experience on other sector like water, sanitation, waste management, but very less on urban transport and health. So I try to, share my experience and also from different, contexts that we are recently going through. So thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Coming here. Thank you.
Thank you, Rafiul. Again, we have many questions for you too, but we move on to the third speaker and the last one, Mowshumi Sharmin. Mowshumi Sharmin is an Assistant Director, Research at Bangladesh Institute of Governance and Management, which is affiliated with University of Dhaka and a policy hub of Bangladesh. Her intended field of research includes governance, public policy, political economy, sustainable resource management, energy, environment, and climate change. She has obtained her Masters of Public Affairs, specialization in governance and public policy from University of Dhaka. She has published articles in several peer-reviewed international journals and attended in several top-tier peer-review conference proceedings. She would like to see herself as a professional who is contributing in social policy and political economy, environment, and governance-related public policy areas. Welcome, Mowshumi.
Am I audible to you?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Purba, for introducing me in a great way to this platform. And I'm also delighted to participate in a workshop with you. Hope to know each other more in the course of the workshop, I think. And today I will talk on actually, as I have also shared with you earlier, the dynamics of energy poverty, economic growth, and environmental vulnerability in Asian lower middle income economies. Firstly, I will give a summary of my talk. And I will tell about the content of my talk so that it is very much clear to you, and it will not take actually more than 20 minutes actually. I assure you, it will not take more than 20 minutes.
Super.
Okay. Improving affordable and reliable energy facility for every community in developing countries is one of the most challenging problems of the 21st century, as we all know about this kind of scenario. Though the energy crisis is seen in every sphere of life, at present there is paucity of data on energy poverty. For instance, we can say primarily there is the absence of the internationally consistent universal metric through which we could measure energy poverty quantitatively. And energy poverty is also a multidimensional phenomenon. The connection between energy excess, poverty, and the environment always poses a vicious cycle in a constantly globalized world. As we are living in a global village, our world is constantly globalizing. It is due to the fact that the interdependence among them generates such conditions which could hardly be avoided by the most susceptible sect of population living with the barest subsistence. Given the connection that I have told previously or outlined above, it is very challenging to harmonize the incongruity between rapid urbanization, industrialization, institutional quality and growth with environmental sustainability. And in this respect, if we fail to address the inconsistencies coming through industrialization, urbanization, or growth process, it could veritably blight the otherwise pleasant scenario of the development process. And in course of my talk, I am not going through the dictionary definition of the contents of the discussion, as the keywords are, I hope, suggestive of what they refer. Sometimes in my discussion, some elaboration may come on need basis. I will also share some preliminary findings of the topic I'm working with currently. And we are all well aware of the fact that clean energy and its effects on anthropogenic changes are crucial issues that we are facing as a society or as a human being today. And the importance of energy coupled with rising energy prices across several countries has spurred academic, political and policy interest in energy poverty in recent years. That's why I'm also talking in this forum about on this topic actually. Defined as the inability of households to meet domestic energy needs, energy poverty is not only an issue in developing countries, but I think it also poses serious problems in some developed countries as well. As some findings found, there were some studies on this regard, and some found that poverty rates are as high as 40% in some European countries in respect to energy poverty. And globally, 2.4 billion people are still live without electricity or have access only to intermittent or unreliable electricity networks, as found from some other studies. And if we say about France, over 3.8 million households are in energy poverty, while in UK, 1/10 of the households are in fuel poverty, many of whom have associated with health complications. Though it was studied by BEIS in 2017, maybe the scenario has changed a bit into 2021. An estimated 1.3 billion pound per annum is spent on providing health services to elderly people with conditions linked to energy poverty. And it was also a study in UK. And beyond such, there are other costs also beyond the monetary costs. Energy poverty is argued to have various socioeconomic consequences with implications for social well-being, health, productivity, to name some areas actually. And while I was going through various aspects of energy poverty when I was preparing or taking preparation on this talk, I have found that there are several issues remain unexplored. The issues are, firstly, the literature has criticized existing conceptualizations and measures of energy poverty, and the lack of conceptual and methodological consensus has been one of the main issues that is hindering the ability of policymakers to deal with energy poverty. And secondly, regarding past history of energy poverty, much of the literature focuses on energy efficiency, income, energy prices as the main determinants of energy poverty. And there are also some recent evidence, however, they shows that social and cultural factors such as trust and ethnic diversity can be important determinants of energy poverty also. And they discuss several important potential determinants that remain to be examined actually. Those ethnic diversity or trust, these issues are less explored area in the energy sector actually. Thirdly, there is general lack of studies that examine the targeted programs and policies on energy poverty. And fourth, regarding the implications and effects of energy poverty, much remains uncovered in the literature. A growing body of literature has focused mostly on health and well-being, as I have also mentioned earlier, although some exceptions focus on the factors, for instance, we can say climate change. However, given that the conceptual literature hypothesizes potential effects of energy poverty on several socio-economic factors, there is need for further research to examine the effects of energy poverty on other outcomes other than growth or climate change, beyond mortality, health, and well-being. And moreover, the relatively new body of literature that examines the effects of energy poverty on well-being and health focuses mostly on European countries. There are a vast number of studies found on the context of European countries, but the low income and lower middle income countries, the studies are very minimum. And in discussing the dynamics of energy poverty, economic growth, and environmental vulnerability in Asian lower middle income economies, there are issues that are pertinent. And in this regard, there are studies of Culver in 2019. He has studied vastly in these areas. And I somewhat agree with his findings. And he has identified 3 predicaments for which energy poverty seem to get less recognition globally. For instance, we can say primarily there is absence of internationally consistent universal metric for measuring energy poverty quantitatively. And the succeeding is the disagreement regarding the quantity of energy required to evade energy poverty. And there is also absence of harmonious agreement concerning energy poverty reduction, and climate change improvement is also another barrier in this regard. And these mentioned issues are creating a dilemma in energy poverty scenario. In developed economies, energy poverty mainly involves issues of affordability, and whereas the situation is more complicated and worse in developing countries. They confront question of both affordability, accessibility. And recently, international organizations have highlighted the accessibility-based definition. For example, the International Energy Agency points out that a substantial number of households cannot use modern energy for cooking, heating, and lighting, the basic needs actually. And in case of Bangladesh, we have found that, or some studies have found that energy poverty, which is 58%, and it is more severe than income poverty, which is 45%. And similar studies also have found, and it was conducted in the context of African countries and Pakistan, they have found the similar kind of results, that energy poverty is more severe and more worse than income poverty. And energy poverty is termed as one of the numerous extents of development-related problems, directing towards not having required number of institute, business models, and opposite system intended to attain a worldwide energy right and access for all. It is a matter of equity. And energy poverty also has a constant relation with the economic poverty and connected to economic, social, and environmental outcomes of sustainable development. Therefore, energy poverty is the absence of sufficient choice in accessing adequate, affordable, reliable, and high quality, safe, and environmentally benign energy services to support the economic and human development. And in this context, lack of availability, accessibility, and affordability of modern energy sources is energy poverty, we can say in very plain words. As I have mentioned earlier, energy poverty plays a pivotal role worldwide to deal with many present problems. For instance, poverty, inequality, climate change, food security, health, and education. Countries in Asia are following the trends of urbanization and industrialization compared to the rest of the world. and Asian lower middle income economies are no exception to that. My talk focused on this group of economies for some specific reasons. There are some specific reasons that I have shown my interest to study on this group of countries. There has been unanticipated growing demand of energy in low and middle income countries since the last 2 decades. And this phenomenon requires a greater investigation, I think. What is driving a larger energy demand at present is of great importance for the future consequences of greenhouse gas emission, especially carbon dioxide emission, which is more than 70% in the composition of greenhouse gas emission. In this respect, the extent of carbon dioxide emission caused by energy consumption is yet to be determined. And both energy poverty as well as climate change issues can be resolved by introduction of more renewable energy sources compared to non-renewable energy sources in the energy mix. And it was the findings of some researchers and some policymakers who said this kind of things, that we can have more energy, renewable energy in the energy mix, and it could mitigate the climate change issues. And according to the World Bank, for the existing 2021 fiscal year, lower middle income economies falls between GNI ranging from 4,046 US dollar to 12,535 US dollar. And adhering to this income category, the lower middle income economies of Asia includes which of the economies I'm studying. They are Bangladesh, Bhutan, Cambodia, India, Kyrgyz Republic, Laos PDR, Mongolia, Myanmar, Nepal, Pakistan, Philippines, Sri Lanka, Timor-Leste, Uzbekistan, and Vietnam. And these countries also clubbed into the group of developing economies, and it is also followed by the World Bank definition. As energy poverty is always associated with income poverty, it concerns people that have low income, low energy consumption, and no access or limited access to modern energy or fuel. Approximately 1.6 billion people do not have access to modern energy or fuels. Moreover, a great number of them have no access to clean water. This means that they do not have access to economic development, and they spend a good deal of their time collecting water, energy resources such as wood and dung, leading to especially animal dung, leading to health problems and accelerating deforestation. Therefore, this phenomenon has a gender phase as well, but I am not going to discuss on this area. That is another area, gender phase of energy poverty. And this, however, does not imply that energy poverty is carbon dioxide neutral, that those who are energy poor, they are not emitting. This is not true for every country or every situation. In this context, I would love to share with you one of my ongoing studies on the same topic that I am working. I would love to share some of the findings with you. And my study investigates the vital question of what linkage, if any, exists between institutional quality, globalization, energy poverty, environment, and growth. The purpose of this study is to comprehend the link between energy poverty, economic growth, and environmental vulnerability, which I can measure in carbon dioxide emission for 15 Asian lower middle income economies. And my study period was 1990 to 2019. And these categories based on income groups by World Bank have heterogeneity in terms of energy endowment and use. Therefore, to achieve the objective of this study, I have formulated a composite energy poverty index so that we could take all these countries on a single plane to discuss about the scenario. And even though this issue is of great importance from an economic point of view, very little attention, or sometimes at most no attention, is given so far incorporating Asian lower middle income economies. I have chosen emerging economies, that is Asian lower middle income economies that have experienced world average growth in both GDP and urbanization over the last 10-year period. And in this respect, whether the institutional quality matter. For finding the answer of this question, I separately included two indicators to measure the strength of national environmental policy, that is country policy and institutional assessment that measures the environmental sustainability, and rates between 1 low and 6 high. And I have also incorporated the EL Environmental Performance Index, which is popularly known as EPI, a country-specific comprehensive evaluation of the environmental quality is EPI. And EPI rates actually countries on 25 performance measures, including ecosystem vitality, environmental health, agriculture, water intensity, air pollution, and its effects on ecosystem and environmental health. Environmental and human health. Strictly, EPI is a measure of national environmental outcomes and performance. And best performing countries are Denmark, Switzerland, and UK, to mention some. And their EPI is above 80. But Asian lower middle income countries are not performing well in this index. Mostly they are below 40, if I mention the score of this group of countries. And what I got from my findings, and I have used standard econometric methodology, and I have found that energy poverty is emission neutral for the whole panel. That is, for the whole 15 countries, I have found that energy poverty is emission neutral. And globalization is enhancing emission. And I have also taken corruption indicators, and I have found that corruption is negatively related with emission. And CPI, institutional quality, has positive association with emission. In this respect, I would like to say that institutional quality of this region has not reached at a level that could substantially reduce emission actually. It is evident from energy performance index also, that this area or this part of countries is not performing in this index also very well. And a key policy recommendation could be governments of the emerging economies could adopt policies that could enhance their institutional performance regarding emission reduction. And although globalization and climate change that is spurring from carbon dioxide emission are both well thought out significant part of contemporary discourse, very limited number of studies have considered the two issues, that is globalization and institutional quality. They have taken two issues simultaneously for their study, predominantly from the viewpoint of energy poverty impacts. Nevertheless, economic growth is slowed down by two interlinked phenomena. For instance, energy poverty, climate change related predicaments due to carbon dioxide emission. This might give us a food for thought to think over this issue in a greater aspect. However, measurements of energy poverty have generally been absent or inaccurate, especially for developing countries at micro level. We could get some macro aspects of this scenario, but at micro level, it is really absent. I hope to go for a future study in this area, hopefully. And I am at the very end of my discussion or talk. And thank you very much for giving me a patient hearing. I hope I did not bore you much.
Not at all. Thank you so much. So Deliana, you want to go ahead with your questions? Deliana.